Hello and welcome back to Phasmophobia. There's just been a very interesting balance patch release for the Nightmare update. Quite a few juicy changes, some in relation to the Ouija board, certain maps, nightmare difficulty, etc. So I thought I'd make a quick video going over these important changes and going over the patch notes. So first of all, they are still currently in the process of making ghost personalities and abilities more unique to help with IDing them in Nightmare. This is not part of this update, this will come in a near future balance patch as they have stated here. But let's go over the changes first of all, starting with the Ouija board. First of all, for the Ouija board, to help combat certain ghosts being very difficult to identify, we've added some new questions to the Ouija board so you can get a rough idea of what your sanity percentage is. Great if you're in the building and if you don't want to go to the truck, if it's a big map for example, it might take a long time. Even better for those that play Nightmare, because as we know you can't check your sanity on Nightmare, the board is broken, that's not information that you were privy to in the past. However, now they guarantee a Ouija board on Nightmare difficulty, so you will just have to find it in one of the predetermined locations. That's great though, so we're going to have to work out what questions we need to ask to get this information about sanity. They have said here that different questions will give different responses, and combining these responses will give you a very good idea of your sanity. I'm very happy that they haven't given us the questions here. A bit of mystery for us to work out over the next few days, work out what we need to ask, get an idea of what we can ask and how we can put this information together. They have also said here that asking about your sanity will only drain your sanity a very small amount. Imagine if it drained all of it. I guess there's no point in asking then. But yeah, I'm sure after some testing this week, we'll be able to put together a good idea of what we need to ask and how much it will drain in general. Less useful Ouija board questions now drain your sanity much less. I'm guessing questions such as how old are you, how many people have you killed, and stuff like that, which obviously doesn't impact the game, but it's just a bit of flavour text to each mission, adds a bit of lore, adds a bit of background and character. I would quite like to see more Ouija board responses and questions being added in the future as well, which could tie into lore and just give the ghosts a bit more flavour and character. Could be interesting. Make some of those missions a bit more memorable. And finally, some of the Ouija board spawn points have been moved to avoid clipping with hiding place blockers. Great, yeah, I've seen some of them already in some of the lockers that are now blocked, or closets, where Ouija boards used to be. The one in Tanglewood, the bedroom at the front, stands out. But yeah, really good changes to the Ouija board. Looking forward to trying to work out the new questions that we need to ask and see how they affect the game. I think that will be a very big boon on Nightmare difficulty. Very welcome. Next up, we have a new section with some interesting changes. So first of all, the ghost changing preferred room is now tied to sanity. Higher sanity, less room changing. I'm quite happy about that one because I've been playing a lot in the last week with this update. So Nightmare in particular, they have been bouncing room left, right and centre. I actually had a mission today where as soon as I found the new room and started to get some equipment in, they were already gone. They've gone to a completely different room, so it was super difficult to keep track of them and get evidence. Ended up just being chain hunted because I just could not keep tabs on them, so that's a great change. Also another incentive to keep your sanity higher, which is interesting. For the second change, that is now a shortcut from the entrance area to the campfire area in Maple Lodge campsite. That's cool. Trying to think where that could be. I'm guessing on the far left of the map. That's cool, it adds like another loop to the map I suppose. Not as many dead ends, might even increase your survivability a little bit. Curious to see what they've done with that one. Next up, Heavy Rain has received new visuals. More photos have been added. I'm guessing that means photos such as the pet photos and other photos they've added in a recent update. Weather can now come through the grated ceilings in the prison cell blocks. Yes, that's nice. So I guess the rain will come in the cell blocks because I know it did collide before, something I did test. So I'm guessing we'll get some nice rain and snow and stuff coming in now. Maybe not very nice for the people that have to stay there, although I suppose it is abandoned. Now we have some changes, quite a few of them. So ghosts can now have a maximum range for changing preferred rooms. That's great, because tying into what I was saying earlier about this ghost that I could not keep track of because they kept moving, it also felt like they kept moving around the map dramatically in between different floors. Very difficult to keep track of, to be honest. I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised though that it's not felt too tedious, because I wasn't sure if them changing room all the time would feel a bit tedious, but I think some of these changes will definitely help alleviate that if some people do have that concern still. I guess changing to a nearby room won't make it too difficult to take all your equipment from one room and place it in a room nearby, whereas in the past you might have had to travel a fair distance, especially if you're playing solo. I play a lot of solo myself. So yeah, it was quite effort. It was quite an effort to move everything. So yeah, good change. The Goyo will now always have dots evidence on nightmare difficulty. That's great again. Yeah, fantastic, because obviously the Goyo will very rarely do it if you're in the room. Your best odds are to place the camera and go and look from the truck, to be honest. So that's great. You can do some good testing with the dots evidence with the Goyo. Something else you can look out for the Goyo as well, they will very rarely wander compared to other ghost types. If you feel like there's a lot of activity centered in the ghost room, another indication that it could be a Goyo. So that's going to help ID a Goyo on Nightmare. Personally, I didn't really have too many issues IDing them based off the wandering, but I suppose that's going to help anyway, because I can see why they would be a tricky one. The Abarke will now always give fingerprints evidence on nightmare difficulty. That should make them very easy to spot actually, especially if they're pretty active in general. It shouldn't take too long to get the handprint which has an extra finger. Also, something you can pay attention to is how fast the fingerprints fade out, which is a little secret ability for them. They will fade out faster for an Abarke. Speaking of fingerprints, there's some more changes for fingerprints. Fingerprints will now have a 100% chance to spawn instead of 75%. That's great, because if you were super unlucky, there were some instances where they would be touching everything and you just wouldn't get them because they were never guaranteed, but now they are guaranteed, so that's great. Fingerprints now also last 2 minutes before fading out. It used to be 1 minute. They have doubled the duration. Nice quality of life change, not complaining. And the Abarke strength has now been adjusted as well to accommodate the fingerprint changes. And fingerprints are getting even more love. So on Maple Lodge campsites, they have now added more potential fingerprint spots, which is great because they were super difficult to get on that map if the ghost was inactive, which I find a lot of them are on Maple Lodge campsite, funnily enough. So fingerprints can now be left on small tents, picnic benches, cooler boxes, wooden posts and log seating in Maple Lodge campsite. Let's see if this is enough. From my experience, they've been super difficult to get up until now, so I'm hoping this will be enough. I very rarely get them on the tents already. I think I've only had it about 3 times, but yeah, we'll see if that helps anyway. I'm hoping it will. The amount of hiding blockers has been adjusted in all locations and difficulties. Very interesting. I wonder if they've made it a bit more forgiving at the higher end and a bit more forgiving at the lower end, or if they've made it a bit more forgiving at the lower end but a bit more brutal at the higher end. We will see. I have to say, Nightmare and Professional, there were barely any already on those difficulties, so maybe they've made it a bit more lenient. We shall see. Camping lights, fairy lights and the campfire lights have been adjusted to stop sanity drain like other lights. Fantastic, and I'm sure we will feel the difference with this one. For those that have not seen how you turn on the fairy lights, there are some wooden posts dotted around the map. Some of them have some very subtle light switches on. They do light up a big area. Do recommend doing that as you walk around the map. Ghosts now have a much lower chance to change preferred rooms on Professional and Nightmare. I'm actually pleased about that one because the very odd mission where they did seem to jump around like crazy, it felt a little tedious at some points. Like I said, especially if you play solo or in duos, by the time you find the ghost and get the equipment in, it may have already jumped room, and meanwhile your sanity's draining and you reach the point where you're getting chain hunted. So I think that in combination with the ghost room not changing as much if your sanity is high, I think it's going to feel a lot better. I can't wait to see how it feels. They've also lowered the chance for the ghost to wander long distances. Very interesting. Yeah, I've definitely felt like there's been a lot of wanderers at the moment. Always makes you think if it's the twins at the moment, obviously with the recent addition where there is a second ghost that can wander and interact with things. Always on the back of my mind when I get a supposedly wandering ghost. Again, going to be very interested to see how this feels from a gameplay perspective. Next up, the fog colour, night vision and ghost orbs have been adjusted to help gameplay visibility during foggy weather. So that's been a bit of a funny one. So the best way to see ghost orbs at the moment when you have fog has actually been to turn off your night vision. I wonder if that's not the case anymore. We'll have to hop in and see how that feels. Just bear in mind that might not be the case with this change, depending on what they have changed. They've increased the interaction rate for Ghosts on Nightmare difficulty to match Professional. Hallelujah, I am really pleased about that, because I have to say, all the Nightmares I've played, the Ghost has felt a little bit too inactive. I don't think making the ghosts more inactive is a good way to add difficulty. I don't think it adds difficulty personally. Yes, it might slow down you getting evidence, but I think it just makes it a bit more tedious. So I'm glad to see that they're moving away from that a little bit. I have to say, a decent chunk of my nightmare missions this week have kind of bordered towards tedium, when the ghost is just literally not giving you anything, when you have everything in the room and they're not changing room and you're just waiting, and they're very chill, they're not doing interactions, they're not doing ghost events. So I'm hoping this will help with that one. We'll see how that feels, but yeah, very pleased about that one. They have also optimised all weather conditions for better performance. Fantastic. I know performance has been a big issue for a lot of people with this update. I've heard that Edgefield has had a lot of issues, and Maple in particular, because it's a very dense map. There's a lot of items, interactables. Of course, as well, it's an outdoor map, so most of the map will probably render at once. On the indoor maps, they probably won't render what you can't see. Maybe not the case with Maple, so that could be part of the problem with Maple as well. But let's see how it feels after these optimizations. They have also optimized trees and other foliage in Maple Lodge campsite for better performance. Fantastic. The clock ticking and white noise sounds now loop seamlessly. Oh, good job I never noticed that. That might have annoyed me. In VR, you will no longer grab the tent door when attempting to grab a nearby prop, and ghost events will no longer stop if you leave the room or get too far away from the ghost. Interesting. I wasn't aware that one was a thing. I mean, I know that they stop when you go too close to the ghost. That wasn't a thing in the very early days of Phasmophobia though, because I do remember literally walking right up to the ghost's face and being able to get some really good photos, but they did add it in an update where if you get too close they disappear. So I wonder if they would bring that back as well, because I quite enjoyed that actually. You can get these very funny instances if they spawn near you and you're in the process of moving, where the ghost event can literally be 0.1, 0.2 of a second because you're essentially walking through their hitbox and make them disappear. So yeah, I wonder if they would ever bring that back as well. I think that could be fun. And finally, we have some bug fixes. I'm just going to speed through these, but I'll stop and talk about any that seem interesting. So they fixed several issues with tank collision, fixed several safe spots on Maple, fixed several spots where the player could get stuck on Maple, fixed a safe spot under the bed in the nursery on Edgefield, fixed a bug where the Raiju's weakness wasn't working correctly. So I think this is where it has a bigger radius for malfunctioning your equipment. I've heard it wasn't working, and here's the confirmation. So lovely. We should be able to identify Raiju's a little bit more easy now as well if we can pay attention to this. Fixed a bug where you could teleport into Tanglewood House through the yellow barricades. Fixed a bug where placing sound sensors on the floor wouldn't show on the map. Fixed a bug where placing a sound sensor on the floor wouldn't allow it to function correctly. Fixed a bug where dropping the candle could initiate a hunt from an Abaki. Oh my goodness. So did that have a bit of the Onryo's power tied in by accident? Or did they actually mean to say Onryo in this bug fix, I wonder? Fixed a bug where dropping the candle could initiate a hunt from an Abaki. I wonder if they meant Onryo, because I'm pretty sure I heard one of the devs talking about this and they did say that wasn't intentional for the Onryo. So maybe that's a mistake in the patch notes, I'm not 100%, unless this was accidentally applied to the Abaki. We'll see. Fixed a bug where the ghosts would be completely invisible instead of only casting shadows. Yes, this has nearly got me killed so many times. I mean, the transparent ghost model already that they've added to the game is super difficult to see, but I did just release a video on how to make that a bit easier to see, hoping that will help you out, so feel free to check that out on my channel as well. Fixed a bug where other player microphone volumes would reset when returning to the lobby. Fixed a bug where certain light switches wouldn't give fingerprints photo evidence. Fantastic. That tied in with the other fingerprint changes. They're now guaranteed, they will last longer. More spots on Maple. Fingerprints are getting a lot of love in this update. Good. Fixed a bug where several showers weren't interactable. Fixed a bug where some showers had 2 shower heads. I saw that on Prison, yeah. I have to say, I did a double take the first time I noticed it. I walked in and didn't really notice anything was amiss, but then something must have twigged with my subconscious because I did a double take. Fixed a bug where several bones wouldn't give bone photo evidence. Fixed a bug where asking the Ouija multiple questions would make answers overlap. Yep. You can get some funny answers doing that, but look, well, they've fixed it now. You could get some funny answers doing that, I should say. Not anymore. Fixed a bug where dropping the Ouija in VR would stop it falling to the ground. Fixed a bug where hiding spots could still be blocked on amateur. Oof. So that wasn't intentional. Ouch. How many deaths on amateur because of that? Poor new people who just bought the game for Halloween going to amateur and having all their hiding spots blocked. Welcome to Phasmophobia. Not anymore though, they fixed it. Fixed the bug where lights wouldn't reset their brightness after flickering. Oh yes, that one annoyed me. The lights used to go dim after ghost events, you had to turn it off and on again. Fixed the bug where players could talk on the walkie-talkie when near a hunting ghost. And fixed the bug where ghosts would change preferred rooms to one on the opposite side of the location. Hallelujah. Honestly, loving these changes that they've made with the ghost changing rooms. So it won't do it as often if your sanity's high, and it won't do it as often on Professional and Nightmare. In addition to this bug fix here, I think it's going to feel a lot better. Can't wait to hop back in and play more this week. So there you go, that's actually a really juicy update. Nightmare Balance Patch. It's out right now. You can play it right now. All these changes are live in game. So Ouija Board, very interesting changes. Cannot wait to dabble around with that in game. Really good changes overall with a ghost changing room, adjustments to that. Nightmare difficulty, fingerprint changes to Maple, etc. Honestly, yeah, really impressed. Super impressive little balance patch. And I'm really looking forward to them making the ghost personalities more unique and identifiable as well. I guess the only concern I can think of with that one is that it's a really fine line, isn't it? If they make them too obvious by behaviour, you won't have to gather evidence. But then if they're not obvious enough by behaviour, Nightmare is just super difficult, can be a bit of a gamble sometimes. So it's a really delicate balance. I do appreciate that. I think it'd be good if they took their time on this one. I just can't wait to see what they do with it. Well, there you go. Very nice patch anyway. Cannot wait to test some of the changes. Let me know what you're excited for the most from this down in the comments. And if you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. As always, take care, and I will catch you in the next one.